Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the second video for ICM Pi, where we are going to be talking about drawing with rectangles and just some drawing things generally to make sure you're set up for your initial challenges. So to start, I am back in Trinket, which is our online coding platform. Please remember that you can get to Trinket by Google search, by typing in trinket.io, or by navigating through a link in the curriculum. We are once again going to start a new project. So I am going to navigate to that starter code that I can duplicate. And again, I am going to use the bit.ly, which is bit.ly/trinketpi. And that will give me my starter code with all of those initial processing.py functions already written in for me so that I don't have to worry about doing anything. Again, once you guys get here, it will probably look just a little bit different. I am the original creator of this code, so it's attached to my account. Things look a little bit different when that is true, but you guys should see a button somewhere at the top that says copy or duplicate or fork, and you're just going to go ahead and click that so that it makes you a copy. Just like in the last one, this is just going to say copy of blank canvas, not a super useful title. So I am once again going to rename. I'm going to rename with the date, and I'm going to write rectangles and drawing basics, because that feels like a name that is going to encapsulate everything we are doing right now, and that I will be able to remember when I come back to use this as a reference later. So let's just check that our code is working before we dive in. I'm going to hit run. And I'm just going to verify that I'm getting, my gray canvas square. I still have the numbers displaying. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Now, the last time that we went over coding, we learned how to draw an ellipse, and I think that's a wonderful place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw myself an ellipse. It's always going to start with the word ellipse and the parentheses. And again, a reminder about that white space, because I am putting this in the draw function, it is in line with everything else that is in the draw function. And we learned before, and we can definitely access the reference sheet if we forgot, that an ellipse needs those four values. It needs an X, it needs a Y, it needs a width, and it needs a height. So I'm going to head to my Trinket, and I think I'm going to put this at 100, 150, and I'm going to make this just kind of a big circle. So I'm going to hit run. Perfect. I have a big circle on my screen. Again, you guys can move this, you can adjust it, but for our purposes, here's my ellipse. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a comment that this is my left circle. We'll even call it like left middle circle, just so that I can be descriptive if for whatever reason, I want to come back and edit this later. Maybe I decide it needs to move, it needs to get smaller, it needs to be more of an oval than a circle. This is going to remind me which of those ellipses it is, because in a larger program, I could be drawing many, many ellipses, and I want to make sure I can distinguish. As a reminder, code comments are left with that hashtag, and they are not read by the computer. So if I were to hit stop and play, nothing would happen. Now, I want to be able to add a little bit more to this, and I think the next thing I would love for us to try adding is a rectangle, and we're going to see kind of some things that happen within our draw function as we add the rectangle. So I have been doing this for a while. I know how to draw a rectangle. It is burned into my brain, but we're going to go back to our reference sheet, which is pi.processing.org, and we navigate to the reference page, and we're just going to click on rect. It is not the full word rectangle, it is rect. So I see we have some options. The most basic is rect and 4 numbers. The other ones have some extras, and it looks like that changes maybe how the corners look. And if I go on to read, it tells me it's a rectangle, 4-sided shape. The first 2 parameters, so that's my X and my Y, are now the top left corner of my rectangle. So in the circle, it was the middle of the shape. Now it's the top left corner. And then the width and the height are the last 2. And then it says if I want a rounded rectangle, I can add a 5th parameter, which is used as the radius value for all 4 corners. That's awesome. It looks like if I add 4 extra values, I can set different radius values for every corner. And that's good to know. I don't think I'm going to use it right now, but that would maybe be a cool exploration for later. I right now just want to focus on what like A, B, C, and D do, which is the X, the Y, the width, and the height of my rectangle. So I'm going to head back to the Trinket. And I'm gonna make a note that I'm writing a rectangle. It's X, Y, width, and height. And then I'm gonna try making a rectangle. And I think I want this rectangle to exist at, let's say 150, 200, and I want it to be 150 units wide and 100 units tall. So I'm going to repeat some values. I also just want to make it clear, all these numbers, I'm choosing like nice round numbers that are divisible by 10 or by 5. You can pick any number you want. You can go crazy. I'm just trying to keep it looking good for us. So I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to run my code again. And you'll notice I have a rectangle, but not only do I have a rectangle, I have a rectangle that is on top of my circle. I see this little corner is touching my circle. And if I wanted to, I could even move it more on top of my rectangle by adjusting that Y value so that it goes up higher. I decreased my Y, which moved my shape up. Reminder that I can use those coordinates if my mouse is over it like it is right now at 153, 102. I can use that to help me figure out where my shapes are. Right now it's on the left corner to track that. And I could move my X over, I could decrease my X value. And now I have a rectangle that's like half on top of my circle. And I know some of us might be asking, why is the rectangle on top of the circle and the circle is not on top of the rectangle? And that's a wonderful question to have at this point. When we are coding, the computer is reading our code from the top down. In the draw function, that means it's drawing the background, then it's writing the text, then it's drawing a circle, and then it's drawing the rectangle. So circle gets drawn first, then the rectangle. An interesting piece of processing is that the draw function actually runs on a loop forever. So it's constantly going through and repeating this process. It is just doing it so quickly that like we don't even know what's happening. So every single second, roughly like, I don't know, like 60 times a second, it's going through and drawing a new background, new numbers, new circle, new rectangle, and it's covering them up, which is why our text looks so fluid, because every time I move my mouse, a new background's getting painted over it, new text is getting stamped on top of that, and then my shapes, so on and so forth to eternity. If I wanted my rectangle to be behind my circle, I could just take my code. I'm just going to do a little copy paste. So I'm doing a Command C. I'm going to get rid of that. And I could paste it above my ellipse. Now, when I hit run, you'll see that my circle is on top and my rectangle is behind it just because I did the rectangle first. So the computer did that first, and then it covered it with my circle. Doesn't seem like a huge deal now, but as you guys start progressing and making designs, this will be a really important part of what we're doing. The last thing I want to show you, because I know it comes up in the first few lessons, is just how to draw a line. Lines, unlike a circle and a rectangle, don't have a width or a height. They just have 2 points. They have an end point X and Y and another end point X and Y. And if you wanted to, you could verify this in the reference sheet. I just happen to already know. So I'm just going to make a note that I'm drawing a line that is X1, Y1, X2, Y2. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw that from, let's draw it from the top corner all the way down. So it's going to start up here and it's going to go all the way down here to the bottom corner. So it's just going to cut across my entire page. And because I'm drawing this after my rectangle and my ellipse, I should see it go through both of them. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. And again, I could maneuver this. So I could take my line and I could stick it between my rectangle and my ellipse. And I'm just going to fix my indentation. And then I'll see that it goes behind my circle and over just that little baby corner of my rectangle. These are our very basics of using shapes. Please, please, please feel free to get this into your own editor and also to take some time to mess with these numbers, maybe make a few more lines, a few more rectangles, a few more ellipses until you are comfortable with this idea. I'll see you in the next video.